But I am very keen to talk to people from Wales about the Welsh First Minister Eluned Morgan's contention that you're all racists. If you're white, you're all racists. And she's going to spend loads of your tax money on teaching you how not to be racist, to reprogram you, re-educate you away from your Neanderthal backward ways. Is this what you want your government to do? To treat you like sort of farm animals or something? You know, oh, we'll train them to be better than this. I mean, come on. I mean, first of all, people of Wales aren't racist anyway. Why does she think they are? Why does she think that about her own people? 0344 499 1000, but please, by all means, ring in about the farming protest as well, because that, of course, is the big story of the day. Now, for the next half an hour or so, we're going to talk about the police. Who, of course, have been under fire for their energetic pursuit of these ludicrous non-crime hate incidents. The massive mistake they made knocking on Daily Telegraph columnist Alison Pearson's door on Remembrance Sunday morning of all times, 2 coppers telling her she was being investigated for a tweet she posted a year ago. What was the tweet? She said, "We can't tell you." This is sinister. And what are the police doing? Wasting their time with non-crimes. If it's not a crime, it's got nothing to do with the police. This is thought police, thought control, anti-free speech. But we're always hearing that the police, you know, they don't have enough resources, they don't have enough officers. Well, first of all, I would say, well, don't waste officers' time knocking on newspaper columnists' door to threaten her right to a freedom of speech. You know, that I would suggest that. Don't waste your time recording 250,000 non-crime hate incidents. Frankly, in my view, don't waste your time pursuing hate crimes at all. They're a scourge. They're an attack on our freedom. We should never have had them in the first place. They were brought in by Tony Blair in 1998. The first laws in this country against things that you might say. The first laws to prevent you saying things for 300 years. So, big step backwards, if you ask me. But non-crime hate incidents, come on. We'll talk about that in a little while, because Essex police are under fire for being incompetent and for, you know, running a sinister regime that frightens citizens because they've committed non-crime hate incidents. But before we get to that, let's talk about police resources. They always complain, not enough officers, not enough money, Anyway, it turns out that police diversity jobs in this country have increased by a third in the last 3 years. So they're 33% up on what they were 3 years ago. So the number of equality, diversity and inclusion roles, EDI, in UK's forces has increased to 200, up from fewer than 150 3 years ago. I'm not quite sure what they do, but wouldn't it be better to spend that money on more coppers, you know, so they could go out and catch the bad guys? Let's talk to ex-police officer and founder of Fair Cop, Harry Miller. Hello, Harry.
Now then, Kevin, nice to see you.
What? Good to have you back on. We had your friend Sarah Phillimore on yesterday talking about her experiences at the hands of the thought police. We'll talk about that in a second. But, you know, what's going wrong with the police? Why don't they spend their money on coppers and then send the coppers out to tackle real crime? And when I say real crime, I don't mean things that you tweeted a year ago or things that you said. I mean things like burglary, car theft, bicycle theft, violence on the streets. You know, and why are they spending... Why have they got 200 diversity officers now? What are they for?
Well, the problem is, Kevin, you and I live in an analogue world, and these are all digital crimes, and our police force these days seem only, or primarily at least, to be interested in digital crimes, Twitter crimes, free speech crimes, wrong-think crimes, crimes that involve heresy. They're very, very keen on that. I say if you get burgled, then you may get a visit, you may not get a visit. What you're guaranteed to get is a police crime number, so that you can claim on your insurance and you can shift the problem over to them. But if you tweet something that is remotely offensive to somebody, some small minority or some politically motivated person, then there is a very good chance that you're going to get not just one, maybe not even two, but 3 or 4 police officers banging on your door and demanding that you do something about it. If they can't do you for a crime in this instance, what they will do you for is a non-crime. So we've got it all covered. This is purely, truly Orwellian. The notion of a non-crime crime is about as double-speak as it's possible to get. Now, I came to public attention back in 2019 when I got one of these damnable things, a non-crime hate incident, and through a direct subject access request, I managed to get hold of the physical recording of it. And what's interesting is it's recorded as a crime. The heading says crime report, and then it says suspect, Harry Miller, and then it says crime, transgender hate, and only down in the small print, the very, very small print, does it say further category, crime, category, non-crime.
I mean,
what on earth is that all about? Now, can you imagine? Because these things are disclosable on an enhanced DBS check. Can you imagine what is going to happen if you apply for a job and the police send this through to your potential employer? Do you think they're going to read down to the T's and C's at the bottom and decide, oh my goodness, this is nothing, this is a non-crime crime, when the bloody heading says crime and it names you as the suspect and the crime of hate? This is why it's so insidious. It's downright dangerous. It's utterly wrong. And it stands for everything that Britain should not stand for.
Just remind us, Harry, exactly what your non-crime was.
Well, there were a number of things. First and foremost, apparently I had retweeted a feminist limerick which challenged the idea that women have penises. This was seen to be...
You did what? You challenged the idea that women could have penises? How dare you? How dare you challenge that?
Yeah, I know. I part of the limerick said that their vaginas go nowhere. So that in itself was utter heresy. So that was a retweet. But one of the things that I did do, and this was a little bit naughty of me, was this. I was taking the mickey out of this assigned male, assigned female at birth nonsense. Because I remember the days when they would hold a baby up by its ankles and have a little look. And they would decide whether the baby was a male or a female. But again, you and I live in an analog age.
Yeah.
So what I did was that
you've got to wait till that sort of thing is assigned. You understand?
Yeah. Well, what I put was I was assigned mammal at birth, but I identify as a fish.
Yeah.
Don't species me. And the police decided that this was so hateful, even though it wasn't criminal, it was so hateful that it was necessary to record me for a non-crime hate incident. And this is the justification why. Kevin, I hope you're listening carefully.
I am.
What I had done apparently was I had gone onto a staging post, stage 1 of a 5-stage journey, which without police intervention would lead to genocide. Did you get that? That me saying that I have assigned mammal at birth, but I identify as fish. If the police did not nip that kind of talk in the bud immediately, it would lead through assault, through murder, to genocide. And that's why they had to record the non-crime hate incident against me, because I was a genocidal maniac in the making.
Which is exactly what happened to Sarah, wasn't it? That she did this sort of provocative tweet deliberately just to test the waters, to see how ludicrous the police were in this arena.
Yeah, I think in her case, wasn't it? She'd said that my cat is a Methodist.
Yeah, she did it deliberately to see if that, and sure enough, they did investigate. And she was telling me this last night, that the reason that this was categorised as so serious was that her hate crime, or her non-hate crime against Methodists, comparing them to a cat, unless checked, could lead to genocide. So this seems to be their sort of catch-all reason for justifying non-crime hate incidents, that unless people like you are brought into line and told, well, actually, you know, you're a bit wrong about people's biological sex, or Sarah is told, well, you know, this cat Methodist business, it's a bit much. If we don't stop you now, we'll turn our back, you'll be committing genocide tomorrow. I mean, this isn't... how crazy is that?
Well, they seem to think that this is how Hitler started. That he said my cat's a Jew, and the next thing we've got Auschwitz. I mean, it bears no common sense whatsoever. It is historically utterly illiterate. And when you say it out loud, it sounds absolutely crazy. Now, I can imagine somebody writing this down, but imagine arguing this in front of the High Court and in front of the Court of Appeal, which is, of course, is what the College of Policing Silks did. In my case, they argued that what I had done, if it wasn't nipped in the bud, would lead to genocide. Now, thankfully, the Court of Appeal had a good day back in 2021, or I think it was 2021, and they said that the recording of non-crime hate incidents is, for the most part, entirely unlawful. Not always unlawful, and we never argued that it should always be unlawful. Non-crime hate incidents came out as a response to the Macpherson report, which was, of course, itself about an investigation into the murder of Stephen Lawrence. And what Macpherson said was this. He said there needs to be some way of capturing intelligence that doesn't quite amount to a crime, but would be useful in preventing murders like that of Stephen Lawrence. Now, of course, we, and no sensible person, has any problem whatsoever with the police doing that. We want the police to prevent crime. We want the police to collect intelligence and to gather that intelligence and to make sense of that intelligence in order to prevent a crime. But when they apply that principle to me retweeting a limerick or Sarah saying my cat is a Methodist, it's turned a sensible idea into a complete and utter absurdity. And there's two things that are wrong with it. The first is that people like Sarah and I should not, and Alison Pearson, should not be investigated by the police. But the second point is this, that in the middle of that 250,000 non-crime hate incidents that have been collected, there will be some intelligence that the police ought to have, but they don't have it because it's lost in the noise. Yeah, but so it's a double whammy mistake.
Yeah, I'm with you, Harry, but I said this to Sarah last night and she agreed with me. You know, you cannot venerate the police collating useful information to such an extent that it justifies knocking on someone's door or investigating a 9-year-old child for calling another 9-year-old child a name in the playground. So, you know, the police gathering information, yes, but only to an extent. If the price is this police state, thought police nonsense, where primary school kids are getting investigated, where a woman is investigated for saying something silly about her cat, where you're investigated for retweeting a limerick, then I'm afraid, you know, it isn't worth the police having that information. They can't have it. We'll have we'll have no non-crime hate incidents, and you can't have the information because that makes this a better society. Ends.
Well, again, we need to go back to what Macpherson was referring to. He said that there was intelligence about those white guys who did murder Stephen Lawrence. The problem was they've been talking about wanting to stab a black person inside a private residence. And because it wasn't quite sophisticated enough to amount to conspiracy, and because it was in a private dwelling, it wasn't a crime either. But nevertheless, a bunch of white guys talking about wanting to stab a black guy, I would say that is intelligence that is worth gathering. And that is the standard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's all right. But they've taken that and they've taken an inch and turned it into a mile. So yeah, of course, you know, I don't want to sort of like say, oh, the police can't have useful information that prevents murders. But you know, there's no way first of all, well, what they're saying with you is that when you retweeted that limerick, that them calling on you prevented genocide. And this is ridiculous. So in other words, the police can't just say, oh, this is useful because we get useful information. That's not good enough. That's not good enough. You know, sometimes freedom, the freedom of a population, prevails over what the police want and what they feel they need. It really is more important that the people feel free and that they're not knocked on their doors to be told maybe a tweet a year ago was, you know, potentially going to cause genocide or something. It's more important that that doesn't happen than the police get that information. I think it's as simple as that. They can't have everything. They just can't. Listen, Harry, when we come back, let's focus. We're going to go to break now, but